The multiverse. Billions of worlds. Each identical, but different, based on the choices of individuals. But no matter how different a world may be, there is always one thing that remains constant. There is always some form of evil threatening the existence of humanity. That's where people like me come in. We are called Kamen Riders. And this is Rider Prime! I will fight for you till the very end. I will push on through to let the light shine in. No matter how big the darkness, I will fight for you. With the power in my heart.
On Earth 80, Kamen Rider Dragon Knight and Sting were being beaten up by Thrust and Axe. Why are you doing this?
Because we can. We use superior Kamen Riders. We want your survival cards. We deserve them.
Excuse me. Thrust and Axe turned to see Kamen Rider X? Hey, I thought you were dead.
But soon.
X turned to see who was speaking, but was suddenly hit in the shoulder by a laser blast. The mysterious figure then walked up, pointing the Omega driver. Wait a minute. I recognize that thing. Wait, so the Elders actually built it? Who are you, anyway?
I'm your replacement.
Omega then revealed he had a card, almost similar to X's, and inserted it into the blaster. Kamen Rider! Omega then held it over his head.
Engage!
Omega! X and the other riders watched as Omega suited up. Come on, let's get what we're after! X, seeing the three riders in danger, quickly jumped towards them, but was stopped immediately by a shot from Omega. As Thrust and Axe were about to get what they wanted, X turned towards the arrogant rider, who pointed the Omega driver at X. Are you blind to what's going on here? Those guys are about to steal powers they should not have. Remaining silent, Omega pulled two cards out from a compartment on the side of his belt. X watched as the arrogant rider inserted them into the Omega driver. Kamen Rider, guard, Mega! X fired, and instantly, Kamen Rider Guard and Mega appeared. You're able to summon riders? Wait, that wasn't in the original schematics. As the two materialized riders turned to Thrust and Axe, Omega returned his attention to X. Okay, listen to me. I know you all think I've gone nuts, but I haven't. And there's also something else you need to know before you decide to pull that trigger.
And what would that be?
Suddenly, Chief appeared and grabbed Omega from behind. Like the fact that he might not be alone. Man, this guy's tough. Hang on to him. Guard and Mega defeated Thrust and Axe. When they turned and saw Omega was in trouble, they rushed to him. X, seeing the approaching riders, quickly grabbed a hold of the Omega driver. X pushed the card slot in, then out, then back in again. As the two materialized riders approached, they suddenly vanished.
How did you know?
My father designed this driver, so I know all of its intricacies. Now how about we have a small chat in private? X pressed a button on his belt, then he, Chief, and Omega disappeared.
In a room at an undisclosed location, Omega is tied to a chair. Chief was leaning up against one of the walls, while X, after putting the Omega driver and transformation card on a table, sat down in front of Omega. Now, if you can just sit there like a nice little boy, maybe I can explain things.
Like what? You clearly...
No, he is going to tell you who is really responsible. And I'll be around to explain things should you get lost. Okay, Chief, take it easy. Take it easy? Take it easy. Do you really think that... Chief! Sorry. He's still adjusting. Now, it all started with this strange robot calling himself a Shocker Rider. After I defeated him, I was hit with a strange, powerful burst of energy. I later found out it was Xenorium. Now, he's been catching me up on this Xenorium business. Apparently it was an attempt to make clones, but something just didn't work right. It made dark copies of the Riders. Exactly. The creator, Dr. Zeno, hated Riders due to the death of his wife. So he used them to make dark copies of the Riders so he could get people to hate them and, well, to make a long story short, too late. Chief, this is serious. The Xenorium was believed to have been destroyed in a lab explosion, but clearly, Shocker managed to get their hands on it, and has made an evil version of me. It was the clone that was responsible for everything that happened.
Alright, let's say I believe you. How does Shocker fit into this?
Because I have access to Rider Prime, and more importantly, access to certain files. Files Shocker would die to get their hands on. Suddenly, Omega had a thought.
X, do you remember how your great-grandfather defeated Shocker?
Yeah, he managed to teleport their main ship, the Crisis Fortress, to an undisclosed location. Only those who obtain the X power know where.
It would happen to be Universe 67, a planet on Earth near Malibu, California.
I take it that was not a guess.
The Elders tracked you going there a couple of days ago, but then you left just as quickly.
How much you bet it was long enough for him to place a homing beacon? If this Shocker manages to get that fortress back, how bad is the situation? Instead of answering, X pulled out a knife and began cutting Omega free. If I'm right, we haven't a moment to lose. After Omega reclaimed his transformation card and the Omega driver, the three Riders quickly ran out of the room. Earth 67. On the coast of Malibu, a Shocker scientist was setting up a special transmission device. Suddenly, a portal opened, and X, Chief, and Omega jumped through. Don't the Kamen Riders ever know when to stay dead? Death is a very interesting concept. You tried to get my superiors to get rid of me, but despite all that, I'm still here. That is the interesting thing about Kamen Riders. As long as evil exists, there will always be Kamen Riders. Are you a fighter or a poet? Do you want to fight this thing, or shall I do it all by myself? Touchy. All right, let's go. Suddenly, the Riders watched as the scientist turned into a monster. Typical Shocker scientists, they just had to perform experiments on themselves. You call this typical?
Rider up! Kamen Rider! X! Let's go!
Engage!
Before the Riders could react, the monster scientist raised his hand. Then multiple creatures started attacking. Oh, this is just typical. Your version of typical is way different than mine. X took out his weapon, engaged its saber mode, and took on 3 of the monsters. Omega, using his blaster, took down 2 more. And Chief fought the last one. Or who he thought was the last one. Is it my imagination, or are these things seem to be multiplying? This is so don't say typical. Hey, Omega, don't you have the ability to call on some extra riders?
Yeah, but I only brought 2 cards. I used up their energies already.
Are you kidding me right now?
This is still a prototype. Same as those cards.
All right, Chief, calm down. Just so happens I planned for this sort of thing. Exton took out a card and inserted into his driver. Attack summon! All Riders! Just then, Kamen Rider Beetle appeared and fought some more of the monsters. Then Bright Star. Then Cyber. Then Dragon Knight and Spade. Then Omega watched as Spirit Fighter 1 and Time Warrior appeared. She suddenly found himself cornered, but then was saved by Fang.
Where do you find these guys?
After the Elder's contingency plan finished me off, the Ultimate Pod activated a special protocol. It teleported all the riders I enhanced to a secret location, of which only I knew about. Just waited for me to call them into action. Yes, I know. No, I did not expect them to succeed in getting rid of me. But I knew, after hearing that shocker connection, I figured there was going to be problems. Will you kindly stop looking at me like that? Now come on, we gotta stop whatever there. Suddenly, the transmission device emitted a bolt of energy into the sky. After the trail disappeared, the riders and monsters looked up, waiting to see what would happen. Suddenly, 5 bolts of energy came down and struck the ocean. When the energy dissipated, everyone watched the ocean, not sure what to expect. For a while, there was nothing. But then the riders heard a strange humming sound and suddenly watched as the Crisis warship came out of the ocean. As the warship hovered into the air, the monsters returned their attention to the riders. Guys, we need to stop them. No matter what, that warship doesn't leave this coastline. The riders then ran towards the direction of the warship, while Omega stayed behind to finish off the rest of the monsters.